Hey guys, we have both started a brand new series and we finished it too. So, thoughts? Hey guys, if you're new here, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if this isn't your first rodeo, thanks for sticking around. It is so cold out there, so cold. So I'm gonna try to get this done quickly because where I am right now is absolutely freezing, and I had a portable heater on, but I didn't want the humming in there because I didn't know if that comes through, so I turned off the portable heater. So we're gonna try to hurry up through this before the room gets back to freezing. I am trying to stay warm by having my tea, and I don't know if you can see it, but I am using my Booked Path mug. Thank you, cuz once again, I told you I would use it. And I am having some, I don't even know if you can see, like the steam is here, so I can't really even drink it too much, but it's just like, it's nice to hold right now. And what's nice is it's that double glass or whatever, so like I can hold it without like burning, but it's like, it's the only thing keeping me warm right now. But anyway, let me put this down so we can get into the series that I did end up reading. And what I'm talking about is the Ancient Passages series by Sutton Bishop. There are 3 books. You have Afraid to Fall, Afraid to Hope, and Afraid to Love. And just a little bit of backstory to this series and how I got it was I went to the indie romance author kind of festival expo thing that took place back in October, close by over in Atlanta. And Sutton Bishop was there with her books, and I got to talking to her, and she was really nice. She gave me like so much stuff. When I got the books, you got like when you got all 3 books, like she put them in this like lovely little tote bag, and I got coffee coasters that I used, and there was somewhere in here, you know, matching bookmark for the series. There's a sticker that's now on my, actually to magnet, it's now on my T.B.R cart. So it was really nice. She also gave me a little, let me see if I have it. She also gave me this little doll here to kind of go with it. So like, it was just a really great kind of experience to talk with her and get to know her, because she does have a background in kind of excavations and forensics, anthropology. So she, that aspect that's brought into these stories, she writes it with, you know, she knows what she's talking about. She's also traveled a lot, so her experiences with the cultures and the colors of where she's gone and the foods and everything, they really do play a part in these books, and you know, it makes it feel much more genuine. So I really do appreciate that. So let me go ahead and I will kind of tell you a little bit about each book, what I liked, what I didn't like, and then towards the end I will let you know which one was my favorite, who was my favorite heroine, which one of these very handsome guys on the cover was my favorite, and you know, we'll break it down from there. So yeah. So first book up we have is Afraid to Fall. This book takes place mostly in South America. I want to say in Guatemala. And basically you have, so in this book you have Dr. Ariana Anthony. She goes by pretty much Ari, everybody calls her. I think she's 28. She's the youngest kind of doctor, well, not the youngest doctor, but she's the youngest kind of professor at the school that she teaches at. She teaches more of like along your lines of like cultural archaeology. She's very familiar with South American mythologies and traditions. And she is on this kind of group that's been put together to work at some of the dig sites down in Guatemala to uncover, some ancient history and some new evidence that might be shining a light on some of these old cultures from South America. And she's part of this team. And what you end up finding out is that she came to this kind of expedition, this crew, because she was in a relationship with, I think he's the dean of her school, but he's one of the higher ups. He's about 20 years older than her. And they were in a relationship, and she ends up finding out that he was married and had kids. And so she kind of, pieces out and is like, I need some time to think, while he's gone on like summer trip with his family. And she, is upset, obviously. And she goes on this trip. And when she's on this trip, she meets Dr. Luca Fiero from Italy. And he's kind of like the head person who's well, he's the one in charge of this expedition. Not that he's financing it, but he's kind of the head archaeologist, doctor, what have you, that is in charge of the group that's on this dig site. And there, sparks fly, and they're kind of building a relationship. And then enter Natasha, who is friends with Luca, and she's kind of his second in command for this site. And of course, she's brilliant and beautiful. And Ari has this little jealousy flare because Natasha's kind of flirting with Luca, and Luca's trying to say they're just really good friends, and you can take it for as it is. But, stuff comes to a head when Ari is kidnapped and taken somewhere, and just a whole bunch of action unfolds in kind of the last little bit, and truths are discovered. And I'm not going to give those away. There will be some spoilers, like very light spoilers pertaining to some characters, just because that's how the story, like, it's really hard to tell you about the next stories or things without bringing up some characters or things that have happened in this one. So there's going to be very light, but I'm going to try to not give too much away so that you can still enjoy the series. So what did I like about the story? I liked Ari as a character. I felt she was very fitting for, being younger, but for also being incredibly smart in her field. But she is still young. She is still trying to navigate the world. And her relationship with her dean was pretty much like one of the first relationships she ever really had. So she is unsure how to navigate, relationships in general, friendships in general, because she's so usually glued to the, academic world. She hasn't really had a lot. So just the friendships that she builds, her insecurities that she has, the phobias that she's had because of past traumas in her life, I thought were handled very good. One of the things I absolutely loved about this story is the inclusion of the culture in a way that you are getting in the beginning here in like these scripts. You're getting the myths of the culture, and you're getting the myths of the gods and the goddesses and the creations kind of the world. You're also getting tidbits of history of the people. Like I tabbed them all because I found that very interesting, and I loved that you were getting kind of the story of the hummingbird, which plays a big part in the story, and the South American stories that go along with the hummingbird, and how the hummingbird became what it is and earned its colors, and what it signifies. And so I found those really, really, really good additions to the story, and kind of giving it just that little bit extra. So I really did enjoy it. There are a few spicy scenes, nothing huge, nothing too intense. It's little bit descriptive, but not in a bad way. It's done with a lot of respect, and a lot of it starts off with some details, and then it kind of does a fade to black, if you will. So I really did enjoy this. I ended up giving this one 4 stars because I just felt it was really good, and I felt like you got into the culture and the storyline. Things that I would have liked about it, I think the big hiccup for me on why I didn't have it go for 5 stars was it felt like a lot of the story was them at the hotels prior to getting to the dig site. And then when they got to the dig site, it was like, and a few months later, and a few months, and I wanted the stuff that was going on to be kind of happening on the actual dig sites while they're doing these things, not en route to the dig sites. So that was like probably more of a personal thing for me, but I did want that more because the actual, like, they talk about what they're hoping to explore and what they're hoping to find and everything. And then once they're there, interacting with the actual site itself, there wasn't too much really going on. And I think I really wanted to kind of see that a little bit more. But 4 stars, and I thought this was a great startup to the series. So yeah. Next up, we have Afraid to Hope, and this one takes place it starts off in South Africa, and then it ends up being in Morocco. And this one, the main character is actually Natasha. And yes, this is the Natasha from the first story. I was really kind of not knowing if I was going to like this because I did not like Natasha in the first book. So to have her own story with having her romantic interest and happy ending, I didn't know if I was going to really like that. But I will say I did enjoy this book. Natasha is, you find out Natasha is she is a doctor of, different aspects of archaeology and cultures as well, but she does occasionally work with government organizations against looting and the illegal sales of ancient artifacts and so forth. And you're finding out that there is this organization known as the American, and it's seemingly supposed to be like Hydra almost. They think it's like a solitary individual, and it ends up being more than that. So they're kind of trying to find ways to take down the American organization, if you will. And what happens is Natasha is paired with Bane Rua, who is ex-military, and he also works for government organizations for the same purpose. And they are basically going to pose as husband and wife to kind of infiltrate these stores that may or may not be incorporated with like the illegal sales part. So that's what you kind of have. And Bane is very much the confident playboy. I loved him. I thought he was great. Like, he had me, no lie, he had me at the first line he had, which is interesting because I usually, if you have like playboy type characters, they're not like, I find them fun, but they're not like my go-to like heartthrob kind of guy. But for him, his first thing is they're in the room and they're meeting, and she comes in. She's gorgeous, obviously, and she's got she's athletic, but she's got some a little bit of an hourglass shape. We'll just go with that. And he's checking her out, and she turns around, she sees him, and she's like very obviously checking him out. And the first line that he does is when he comes up to her, and it says, "You can look, Dr. Jordan." His smirk broke into a devastating white smile. "I'm even more impressive naked." And I was just like, when I read it, I audibly laughed because that was great. I thought that was the greatest little, like, I caught you, and that was his introduction. And I was like, okay, sold. I'm like, I'm gonna like his character. So I did like it. Not as much of the go-to into the cultures. Like, there was a little bit about like the food and like the markets and things, but not as detailed as it was in Afraid to Fall. Not really any myths or anything like that. They do talk about the Hand of Fatima and kind of its protection, things like that. Once again, you have 2 characters who have tragedy in their past, some trauma in their past that they work through. The support that Bane ends up giving Natasha throughout the story, I thought was really, really great. Natasha starts to find out some truths about her own family and what might be going on, and that really does cause some internal conflict as well as conflict with the organization and the mission that they're on. So they are on the look for some human remains, some ancient human remains that have been discovered and looted, as well as like a codex, if you will. And it's kind of like, I was all for it because I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, this is like almost like Indiana Jones. This would be great. And once again, majority of the story takes place at the house that she has in Morocco, and a lot of discussions and a lot more um, emphasis kind of on their understanding and relationship with each other, which I thought was great. But I felt the actual underlying plot line of having this kind of like mission and, you know, almost espionage type qualities that could have been there. And it felt like the actual plot with them trying to discover these didn't happen until more towards the end of the story. And I didn't really care for that. I wanted the underlying story going through the entire thing, and I just felt like the emphasis on the relationship was at the expense of the plot in this one. But I still enjoyed it. Like, I still liked it. I liked their relationship. I liked the flirty little bit. Like, Bane was just not giving up. So I did enjoy that. I did, you know, there were definitely aspects of the story I liked. One of the other things I didn't like is Natasha was very confident and, you know, she's beautiful, she's stunning, she's smart, and she was able to hold herself, you know, as like a strong, independent woman in The Afraid to Fall. But when you see her in this, it's almost like a shield for her, because anytime somebody tries to talk to her about kind of anything real or in her past or who she really is, or somebody gets too close, if you will, she has this sort of escapism mentality where she just is like, I need a breath of fresh air. I need to go take a walk. I need to go do this. And that got annoying after a while, because I felt like it was at conflict with the character that she was. You know, she's supposed to be this strong professor, teacher type with this almost secret agent type backstory. So I felt it was a little conflicting. But like I said, I did enjoy the story. And in this, you do actually get to meet the two characters in the next story. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars just because I was missing that mythological, cultural component to this. And I felt like the story, the actual plot of the adventure and the archaeology didn't take off until towards the end. So that brings us to the third and final book, which is Afraid to Love. This one takes place in Italy, and you have, I'm going to mispronounce the name, I know it, but Gia Zicella is how I thought it was pronounced. And then you have Booth Merrick. And Gia is actually one of Natasha's friends. I'm trying to keep moving this because I get the glare. Okay, there we go. We don't really have the glare on the book. Gia is one of Natasha's friends that you meet in book 2, and I kind of already knew where they were going with this because of stuff that happens in Natasha's home, and she doesn't know who's behind it, and I pretty much knew right away it was this girl. Like I said, little mini spoilers, but not enough that you don't know what was going on. So like I said, and in this one, you have Gia, who works in an auction house, her family's auction house. They also have a vineyard and estate and winery because, you know, it's Italy. You got to have one. And she's very kind of shy and reserved. She is a widow, I want to say. Her husband died in a very tragic way. However, you come to find out they're not always what it seemed in that marriage. And she basically is being blackmailed by somebody in the American organization to get certain artifacts and kind of be a part of this illegal trading. And she's not liking it, but at the same time, she's being blackmailed at the risk to her family. And then you have Booth, and Booth is like special forces, and he's got his whole little unit. They do private security, and they also work with government and the same government organizations that, you know, Natasha and Bane were part of. And they are trying to find out what's going on, and they think that Gia Her family might be involved in some way, but they don't really know to what extent. And so you start to have this love story where Booth is kind of falling for his target, basically. And that is kind of a no-no. So they're trying to navigate that. All the while, once Gia actually confesses what is going on to Booth, it now becomes a thing of protection, and Booth just really wants to step in, protect Gia, protect her family. He is just kind of like that big teddy bear, golden retriever energy, whatever. Now, he is, I think he's 41. She is 35, 36. I think Bane and Natasha were also in their mid to late 30s. So Ari was like the youngest. Everybody else is kind of, 35 and older. And he is kind of your silver fox, which I thought was interesting because on the cover, like, you don't really get the fact that he's like a silver fox. I really wanted to like love him, and I do love him to some extent, because when I was talking with the author, I said that, he gave me, big teddy bear energy, like you just want to curl up and be protected by him. And she was like, that is him in a nutshell. And I was like, okay, psychic sense with the cover. And he is like that. But what upset me on him was that he is gorgeous and has tattoos and ex-military and like checking every single box on like my fantasy character, like, you're great, you're perfect. And he even like, he loves history and he loves to read, like he loves books. And I was like, you can't get any better. You can't. And then he says in the beginning that he's attracted to curvy girls. And I was like, oh, this is the best guy ever. This is the best guy ever. Except this lady right here, as beautiful and stunning as she is not a curvy girl in the least. And he makes comments on how she's slender and athletic and toned, and like, I'm like, could you have made her curvy, please? Because this would have just made it so much better. So much better, because I was like, here he is. You describe him as liking curvy girls and that way. And he's like, perfect. And then he ends up with the slender girl. And I know it's a personal preference, and I have nothing against like slender women or athletic women or curvy women or bigger women. Like, it's nothing. It was just more the fact that like, I'm a curvy girl. So having everything in my dream guy right here, and then, yeah, but it happens. But she is really sweet, and really, she's got some funness to her, the way that she does get kind of flirty and playful with him. And it was really cute, and their relationship is cute to watch unfold. So like I said, you have a lot of things that you find out about Gia's family and their entanglement with the American organization. And like I said, you have Booth at odds with his mission because, is she compromised? Is he now compromised? And then also that kind of, okay, once his mission's over, where do things go? What happens? There was a lot, I felt like there was a lot more in this one, and that the plot was a little bit more steady throughout. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I think overall storyline, this one was like kind of the most developed, in a sense that you didn't lose the plot at the expense of the romance and relationship story. I did give it 4. I think the reason for why it didn't get 5 was the tension of the plot, like what could have been there for tension based on the story points and the plot points and what was going on with the American organization, and her possibly may or may not be an agent, for the American, all those kinds of things. I felt it was very calm, like the threats being made against her. It only felt momentarily like panicky, I guess. Like, it didn't really ever feel the full sense of danger with her and what was being done. So I'm like, that I wanted a little bit more of just kind of that tension of the circumstances to carry through, because I felt like that would have, you know, stepped it up just a little bit, enough to take it to the 5-star, but it was still very good. And with that, the series is, you know, complete. Let me put them in order here. So they were really good. I thought, like I said, I loved kind of this world. I was kind of sad to see it go. I think the biggest thing overall with the series that I loved is that you had these relationships where you had, you know, these beautiful women that were very vulnerable in different ways. They had different tragedies that they were trying to recover from, and you had the men as well who were absolutely gorgeous and strong, and like, you know, when you want to say, I want to say like they were all like alphas, but with like golden retriever energy, if that makes sense. So they were all very strong, but they knew when to be supportive and when to back off from these girls. And I really, really liked that and appreciated, you know, that type of the relationship dynamics that were going on in these books. I think overall, I think the biggest disappointment for me was that in the first book, you think that the American is just a singular person. And then you find out, like I said, they make comparisons that definitely gave me like Hydra from Marvel feels. But all of them seems to center around the same individual from this organization. And as you get more and more into it, it seems like this individual is like the head of the organization, although they said that he's just like a player in the organization or one of the higher ups. But all these stories kind of felt with him, to where at the end, I was left kind of wondering, okay, is the American an organization, but this is the one guy that he's in charge of everything? And they didn't really, it wasn't really expanded upon the organization. And so I'm just taking it with, it's an organization headed by one individual, and it's kind of their face off against this one individual and his, you know, spies and things like that. To that extent, I wouldn't have minded if there were more. There were 1 or 2 characters in his unit that I was liking, and would have liked that to see them get their own kind of love story, if you will, because I liked them. But yeah, I'm like, I did enjoy the series. I liked the traveling, the locations. You do feel like the colors, like she's really good at writing the colors of, you know, Italy, and of like the Moroccan blue and the jungles. And this one, I think, though, had the most background into archaeology and the cultural aspects by far than these two. But like I said, I think this had the best relationship story written out that went through the whole story. So with that being said, my my favorites, right? So my favorite leading lady out of all of these, I am going to say is Ari. Like I said, I think that she was written as close to her age group. I think there was a balance of her being strong, independent, acting kind of her age, justified in doing so, and reacting the way she did, where she just had like this balance of character, really, really well done in this one. I would say second up would probably be Gia, just because she is that shy kind of girl, but I think her transition to like the flirtiness kind of happened really quickly. Although I did enjoy it, I just felt it was a little at odds, and I wanted her to be a little bit stronger in character. And like I said, Natasha, beautiful, strong, capable, but I just didn't like the escape tactics that she kept using emotionally. I got it once or twice, but just it kept happening, and it was just a little much. So like I said, Ari wins it for the best leading lady. Best male, wanted it to be Booth, but was very surprised that it was Bane. It was our Playboy. I loved him. I loved the flirty comments that he would make, how he would just keep telling her that she's beautiful, that she's stunning, how he is in love with the tush tush on this woman and, you know, can't get enough of her, and how she's going to be the death of him because the things she does. And I just like, I loved him. I loved his flirtiness. I loved just everything about him. Apparently, I love my new character guy is apparently a playboy with golden retriever, or a playboy who becomes devoted to one girl and then just showers her and all his cute little flirtatious quips and everything. But he was great. I just loved him. I loved him. I think he was really on some points carried me through this story, because just the stuff that comes out of his mouth and the flirtiness and everything, and his ability to like just play around. I loved it. I loved him. I really did. But I will say, okay, so then which do I think was the best story overall? And if you hadn't been paying attention, it's going to be Afraid to Love. As much as I really enjoyed the myths and the stories, I mean, it was very close between these two. But I think what I liked was the fact that this one seemed to have that underlying story of, you know, her being threatened, and then him trying to get down to the basics and what was going on, and how his team could enact on that. Like, that seemed to be carried through the entire story. That felt more interwoven into the plot along with the relationship. It just, I felt matched up and meshed well. You know, if you get my Clueless analogy, great for you. But it went well together, and it was just, I liked that. I liked that it all just came together and continued throughout the story. I didn't feel like there was a huge lag of any time. There were things that were happening with the American, the threats, the secret packages, things like that was happening consistently throughout the story, instead of it being more of a lag like we had in this one, where it was the traveling to get to the site, or in this one where it took place more at the house. Like this one, you go back and forth between a few different locations, even though they're all kind of in close proximity to each other. And so I felt like you got a little bit more of the world in which this was, the town in which it was, the environment, the outside, like familial characters, if you will. So I felt like that was more, I guess, cohesive would be the way to say it. But either way, I think like I said, this was my favorite overall story. So, I mean, I think that's good that I liked, as I almost lose them, I think it's good that I liked something different out of each of them. Like this one had the best female lead, this one had the best male lead, this one had the best overall kind of story. But I do encourage you guys to pick it up if you want something that has to deal with more adult relationships, in the way of, you know, understanding not everybody's perfect, people have faults, and trying to make relationships work, you know, in different circumstances, the traumas, as well as in these beautiful locations with this very much kind of, you know, spy espionage backstory. Like I said, that part I really actually wanted more of. So very well done on that. It's not a very well-known series. I mean, I haven't seen anybody out there in the book world kind of covering it. So I was very glad and fortunate that I was able to meet this author. Ooh, excuse me. That I was able to meet this author and pick up this series. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed some of the characters, their quips, their lines, and like I said, their relationship dynamics were very well done. And I recommend it. I do recommend this series. And if you guys are into travel, if you're into a little bit of espionage, if you're into a little bit of learning about different history and different cultures and foods, mixed in with just, you know, some mild, we'll put mild to moderate spice in there. Then I recommend these, and I hope you guys will pick them up and enjoy them. Thank you so much. You know, great shout out to the author Sutton Bishop. It was a pleasure getting to know you and getting to know your characters and the world that you created. I really did enjoy it, and I thought it was a great series to start off the year with. And if you do write more, please let me know. Let me know if there will be more characters. If ancient passages might not be done, that would be great. So with that, I hope you guys are doing well, and I have a few more books that I need to tackle before the end of the month. We will see if I get to one of the other series that I had on my TBR. There are a few things that popped up that I need to get done before that, so we'll see. But other than that, I hope you guys are doing well, that you are staying warm, you are staying safe, you are staying healthy, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.